Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe it's Thursday already, Michael. So I am so excited to have Michael Shane on my channel today. Now, I got to tell you, Michael was someone who reached out to me very early on in my YouTube experience, and you actually invited me to Shabbat dinner, which I thought was just like the nicest, like honestly, one of the nicest invitations I've ever received in my life. I was so humbled to be invited, and I haven't taken you up on it yet, but I'm sure I will someday.
Next time you're
But
in Los Angeles.
yeah, absolutely, when things aren't crazy anymore. But we actually have a serious topic to talk about today because Michael and I have kind of kept in touch, and he came to the Walkaway rally in Beverly Hills. We all had a great time. We saw each other in Nashville, but Michael obviously hasn't had some great experiences as a Trump supporter, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to have him explain that in a second. But before we get into that, I just want to introduce him really quickly so you all know who you're talking to. Michael is a veteran luxury marketing consultant with a passion for travel and adventure. Among other projects in cannabis, tech, and solar, he is the global director of Curated Global Travel, a luxury travel concierge service focused on designing one-of-a-kind, culturally immersive experiences, unforgettable experiences for all families, which hopefully I will take advantage of your services at some point very soon when I finally get my vacation. But more importantly, for our conversation here, Michael was actually forced to resign as the president of the board of the Los Angeles LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce when other members discovered that you supported President Donald Trump because of your tweets on social media. It sounds like an unbelievable story, but Michael, give us a broad overview of what happened.
I mean, honestly, I knew it was coming. I have over the course of the last 6 months, or starting earlier this year, I had been growing more and more passionate about the patriot movement in our country. And I love our country. I don't believe we are inherently racist. I don't think there's systemic racism. It is all created nonsense that many people are buying into. And so I started to um, become more passionate inside. And I met through social media. I met a couple people here in LA with the Log Cabin Republicans, and I'd slowly began to get involved quietly because of fear, of course, of clients and friends and whoever just judging me based off their own ideologies about what kind of person I am. And most of these people I've known for years and years and years, so they can definitely attest that I'm, not a racist or misogynist or an anti whatever. I've been growing this friendship base with the Log Cabin Republicans here in Los Angeles and on the national level over the course of the past year, and slowly started to get vocal on social media. And where I started doing that was Twitter, because I kind of knew most of my clients and most of the people I knew in Los Angeles, especially, weren't following me on Twitter. I have a very good following on, or decent following on Instagram and Facebook, so I kept most things quiet on that front. But until recently, in the columnation, I guess, of leading up to the election, when the overwhelming support from the LGBT conservative community has grown louder and louder and louder. That's given me and many of us more courage to be outspoken and step up. So we had a rally on a Friday night in West Hollywood, where we thought it was going to be maybe a dozen of us showing up. We had, I think, like 70 or 80. It could have been close to 100 people show up, and we marched through West Hollywood. We were very loud. We had the amazing support of the West Hollywood Police Department. Obviously, some of us took pictures with them. I took pictures with them along with Christian Walker and TJ Chang, who are two very good friends of mine now. And that picture was posted and covered in the West Hollywood, gay news and whatnot, and it got around. I believe it was probably our executive director and one of the board members saw it somewhere, and then that's when they started to go through and screenshot all my Twitters.
Well, let's start with this picture, because you sent me over this tweet this morning featuring this picture as the thing that started it all. And I have to tell you, I was floored that this was the offending tweet and the offending photo, which, it's got Christian Walker in it and TJ Chang. TJ is also just like a lovely guy. Christian's great too. And, just tweeting out, thank you to the amazing West Hollywood police. Right before our march, they told us to get loud and proud and that they were proud of us. We backed the blue and we're fighting to protect our Constitution. What an amazing night. And you were tagged in it. And this is the thing that caused them to want to get you to resign. How
This
did
is
this
the
make you
offense.
feel?
This is the offensive tweet. You know what? It's interesting because I'm a travel agent, so I have a lot of agents in my network, and a few of them sent this picture to me. Messaged me, and I said, "I can't believe you. This is disgusting. How dare you?" I'm sitting at a table with a bunch of other agents, and we're all disgusted. And I'm like, "Okay, well, that's your problem, not mine." you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I guess they saw that tweet and started, because that picture of that tweet was used in several publications, speaking about the event that we did on that Friday night through West Hollywood. And so it got some attention. And so I'm not surprised. I knew for sure, for certain, people were going to start seeing my, me being vocal and whatnot, and start digging around.
Mm-hmm. And so the next thing that happened is that you got an email asking you to resign. Is that correct?
Yes. So one of the members of the board sent me an email, because the executive director she doesn't have any involvement. She can't tell the board members what to do. She works for the board. So it has to be a board member. And what she likes to do is go behind and get other board members to back, her agenda, essentially, and pit other board members against each other. And we've had many, many board members resign because of this, because of things that she's done to behind the board members' backs. And so I don't have any proof, but I'm pretty sure that's how this came about. And she enrolled Adam, or maybe Adam was the one that it came from, which is fine. But yeah, he sent me a request that I resign on a Thursday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the email that I received from him.
Yeah, so we'll just read the email really quickly. And this is to Michael Shane. I'm requesting that you submit today a formal letter of resignation effective immediately from the Board of Directors of the Los Angeles LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce. Upon review of your social media timeline, specifically Twitter, I believe that numerous tweets and retweets over the past several months constitute actions that are detrimental to the mission of the Chamber of Commerce. As president of the board of directors of the chamber, your public profile and statements can be viewed by many as synonymous with views and actions of the chamber. As such, your tweets and retweets jeopardize the organization. Part of the chamber's mission is to provide leadership in the LGBTQ community and to advocate on its behalf. This requires a dedication and commitment to full and genuine inclusion of our community, and also robust engagement with institutions and groups outside our community. Your Twitter
Long
post,
as long as it goes along with their ideology.
Oh, of course. I mean, I think that, yeah, absolutely. Your Twitter posts over the last several months do not align with these objectives. Rather, they form a very clear pattern of statements that are misogynistic, racist, condoning and advocating violence against protesters, anti-Muslim, anti-immigrant, and in opposition to public policy that furthers equity and supplier diversity initiatives. And they attached a whole metric ton of screenshots, and we're going to be looking at some of those. And he concludes with, I hope you agree to my request to submit your resignation today. If not, I will proceed with an alternative cure in accordance with our bylaws. So when you got this email, what went through your mind? What was that like for you?
I was like, wow, it took this long for them to email me. Yeah, I wasn't shocked at all by any means. I expected it. So I immediately called my attorney and asked him, how, if this letter alone, is reprehensible on behalf of the chamber, and what I should do. And I had drafted this, long letter kind of in defense of things. And my attorney was like, nope, just there's this 3 sentences you need to send. And I think you have that if you want to pull that up.
I believe I do.
Just
Yep.
send these 3 sentences basically saying, I have no problem. After review from my counsel, I'll read it if you want. From the email that you
Is that
sent, your state. Do you want to read
is
it?
this the correct is this the
Yeah,
correct one?
that's my reply. Yeah.
Oh, go
So
ahead. Go ahead.
basically saying that your statements were deceptive, misrepresented of me, and illegal, slanderous. So be aware that if he published these misleading commentary outside of our organization, that it would be liable. And then I went on to say, I wish no further interaction with your organization, and I will voluntarily resign effective immediately if he rescinds his, retracts his prior commentary. Which, talking to my attorney, we thought, this would be fine. This would satisfy them, but nope. If you want to pull up his
Yeah.
reply, do you?
I'll read it. It's bigger on
Go
my
ahead.
screen than I can make
Yeah.
it here. It says, "Let me begin by correcting a mistake." I'm going to read it with dramatic voice just for extra flair.
Yes, please, dramatic voice.
Let me begin by correcting a mistake in your response. The email sent to Mr. Stevens on Thursday, October 29th was from myself, Adam Isaac, and not an official correspondence from the Chamber of Commerce or its board of directors. The intent was to give Mr. Stevens the opportunity to resign before bringing the matter to the full board. I do not know which statements I made that you believe to be deceptive or misrepresentative. It is why I documented and included 79 images of Mr. Stevens' public Twitter posts. They really did do a number on your Twitter, by the way. There's a lot of tweets. Like, that was like an effort. I made no alterations, nor not even to obscure my identity. Well, Adam, I can assure you, Adam, your identity has not been obscured. I do not retract anything from my email sent on Thursday. No statements of fact were false, and I believe my commentary. It was done without malice. Nothing in this situation brings me joy. Michael, you may still submit your resignation. I would personally encourage you to do so. Now, if I may switch voices and speak officially as the secretary of the board of the Los Angeles LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce, as Mr. Stevens has been notified, a special meeting of the board of directors of the LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce for the purpose of the removal of Michael Shane Stevens as the president of the board and as a director of the Chamber of Commerce has been called for Monday, November 2nd. The meeting will be held via Zoom. You're welcome to attend and observe on behalf of your client. I will send you the calendar invite, yada, yada. So
Yeah,
he did not back down. As SJWs are prone to do, he doubled down.
It gets better. So let me put this into a time frame context for everyone. So I received Thursday afternoon, I received the initial email. And he expected me to just immediately bend my knee and resign. And sorry, not going to happen. And so I replied probably, I replied within 24 hours, which is reasonable. But within that amount of time, he had already, grown impatient because I didn't reply to him, and sent the invitation of the special board meeting for the following Monday, which is only 48 hours, 2 business days, which is not adequate notice by any means for anyone. These are bullying tactics. It's just bend your knee to us, resign. This is because we say so. And you're all these things, and you should just resign. So I clapped back, and I consulted with my attorneys a little bit more, and I made the decision that I was going to resign. But obviously it wasn't because of this reason. I was not resigning because he felt that I was a racist or, was misrepresenting the LGBT community on the behalf of the chamber or whatever. So I don't know if you want to pull up my reply to that.
Let's see.
It's a bit lengthy.
Is it this one?
No.
Oh, hang on. I have it. It's on a different screen. Sorry. Stand by. There's so many screenshots, guys.
So in this reply, this was the original
Is
reply I
it
was
this
going
one?
to.
That the one?
Yes,
No.
this is the
This
one.
is it? Okay. Cool. Do you want to read it or do you want me to read it?
I like when you read it.
Okay, I'm going. We'll do. Well, I won't do dramatic voice with this one because I don't want to. I don't want to make fun of you.
No, you
Okay.
could do dramatic voice for me. I want to.
We'll do a dramatic interpretation. As an LGBTQ, excuse me. Pause. Start again. As a Republican LGBTQ member, I am a major proponent of equality, just different than equity. I believe that all races, sexual orientations, gender, political affiliations should be treated equal and with dignity and respect. It is clear that rather than supporting your claims with foundational evidence that explicitly demonstrates the abhorrent behavior you described, you merely have a distaste for my political affiliation. As a secretary of the board of the Los Angeles LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce, I would expect tolerance and inclusivity from you. However, your letter fails to uphold the inclusivity and tolerance values that the LGBTQ community desires to maintain. Consider that my actions have merely expressed my political philosophies and that they did not contain the abhorrent content you described. I am inclined to decline your request of a resignation. I invite you to pursue any additional cures you may deem warrantable. However, any further harassment by you regarding my political affiliation will be aggressively challenged and exposed. Your cooperation and tolerance and inclusivity of my philosophical endeavors is greatly appreciated. How did it feel to send that?
Oh, it felt great. But even greater. So that was sent on. So I sent that on the Monday, a few minutes before their scheduled board meeting, which I did not attend. I can't be bothered with that nonsense.
Yeah.
That was a Monday. I sent that on Sunday. I had randomly ran into him in person, and so
How
I
did
was like,
that go?
"Hey, yeah, it was fun and awkward." But I essentially said to him, "Listen, again, I repeat my sentiment that I have no problem resigning if you retract what you stated. However, if your intention is to go on record with the board in a meeting to defame me, there will be consequences." So I gave him a last chance to back out, and he said, "No, my intention is to have the meeting, go ahead with the meeting, and go on record." And I was like, "Okay, bring on the Kraken."
Yeah, absolutely. Release the Kraken. So the meeting did go forward?
I don't know. So I sent that letter we just read to them a few minutes before the meeting, and then I sent a separate resignation letter stating, which I think you might have.
Yeah. I think it's this one that I had up originally. Is it that one?
Stating no.
No.
But anyway, it said essentially, I'm resigning because of our executive director's actions of going behind
Oh, I
members'
see.
backs of the board and pitting members against each other with her, moving forward her own agenda with her own intention. So that was my reason for resignation. But I honestly, I already had given notice. I was not going to run for a second term in December.
Oh.
I had already been in the process of stepping out of the role, when my term was over, and so I had no intention of continuing on with the organization. It's just many of these groups are an echo chamber of Trump derangement syndrome, essentially, and it's negative, it's hateful, it's negative. That's all that people talk about outside of whatever's going on. And well, I love the community, and I'm still maintain being an activist for the LGBT community, but now on a more conservative, patriotic role. I believe that we have come very far, in the United States for LGBTQ rights and equality, but it's coming to a point where it's starting to plateau off. Like, what else do we need to do? Yes, there are a lot of people still being bullied, bullying. So but people get bullied for all sorts of things. It's not just for being. It's not only gay people are being bullied. All kinds of kids are being bullied. Transgender community definitely still needs support. But we get into dangerous ground when we have trans age people,
Mm-hmm.
pedophilia, and trans animal, trans, like, where do you draw the line? So that's where I draw the line. So, but again,
Yeah.
I'm a patriot to the core. I love this country, and I stand by everything that I tweeted. And if
Well,
on that
I think
note,
one of the I think one of the things that, oh, we'll definitely look at those tweets in a sec, but I think one of the interesting things that you just said, and I'm actually gonna take some super chats in a second too to make sure we acknowledge those, and I actually have some questions for my locals too. But one of the
awesome.
things that's so interesting that you said is that you weren't even going to run for another term anyway, and if they had just backed off and allowed this whole situation to kind of play out on its own, you would basically be wrapping up your term as president of the board, right? At this point?
Absolutely. And in a month,
Yeah.
in 1 month, yeah.
With no hard feelings, with no harm done, they could have just let the situation kind of take care of itself and they would have been off to do whatever they wanted. And now there's, I mean, you're coming out and saying publicly, you forced me to resign because of my political affiliations and backing it up with evidence. And the thing is that I don't it's so funny to me that people in minority communities don't understand that there are Trump supporters among you, right?
It's Well, I mean, you went to that walk away event, and you've been to many, many rallies since then.
Yeah.
And I actually see a majority of minorities in these crowds. It is from even our gay conservative walkthrough of West Hollywood. We were primarily minorities in our group.
Mhm.
There were the white people in the group were the minority among
Yeah.
the larger group of minorities. So people are starting to wake up and seeing that being a patriot and loving this country is support of the LGBT community. It is support of the minority community, and if we all work together instead of you know canceling people and being just mean to each other, it's you know
Mhm.
it can be done.
It absolutely can. And one of the things that I found with Trump supporters is like a lot of them don't really care if you disagree with them. Like would you ever force a supporter to resign because they voted for Biden?
Never.
No.
While I strongly disagree with their ideology, we have the right in America to have opposing opinions, and I will fight for your right to be able to speak out and stand on your soapbox and scream about communism if in support of communism if you want to. But communism is not going to fly here in America. You can scream about it all you want, but we're going to fight that.
Well, we hope is going to fight back. But I also want to pick up on something else you said though, because you said we were like the majority of the people in our group were a minority, and this is what I've seen over and over and over again with walkaway rallies. We did one in Chicago in which we had almost all of I was like the token white speaker. Me and Mikey were like the token white speakers of this event. Everyone else was black that was speaking at the event, and we were protested by Black Lives Matter full of white people. There were no black
Yeah,
people in Black Lives Matter protesting the black speakers that we had. It was like one of the most absurd experiences of my life. But then I also think back to the walkaway rally that we did in walking through West Hollywood and Beverly Hills. And we had a dinner the night before where Brandon was telling us how much the gays hate walkaway. And so I was like, oh, great, we're doing a march through West Hollywood tomorrow. That's going to be fun. But we showed up, and this is actually like where you and I met in person at that corner in West Hollywood, where all these Trump flags and American flags, and everyone was in a great mood. And really, we didn't get that much grief walking through West Hollywood. We got a couple middle fingers and a couple angry glares, but really, it was overwhelmingly supportive, wasn't it?
absolutely. We had tons of horns honking as we were driving by. We had lots of thumbs up. I feel like that was summertime, and that was at I feel like the uprising of patriots to feel more comfortable to start coming out and vocalizing their support for our president and for America.
Yeah, it was quite an experience to have. So let me see. I'm just looking up. I've got a couple super chats that have come in, and I have a question or two of my locals, and then we're gonna go in and show some tweets. So we
Cool.
have Maddie H did a super chat, and he says, "Remember when being gay used to be fun? Back when we were the subversive, non-PC, unshockable ones. Far cry from where we are now." Michael, how do you feel about that statement?
I'm offended.
Of
I'm so
course.
offended by that statement. No, it's the irony of the whole situation is they're hypocrites. Um, the welcoming, accepting, open arms, loving LGBT community has turned into this nasty, hateful, resentful
Yeah.
group of I don't know, people that
They're
seriously.
angry all the time, and it's like and I say this in general of people on the left is like they thrive on being angry, they thrive on being outraged, and that's not good for many reasons, but it's going to make you age a lot quicker. That's probably one of the
Oh yeah.
more important reasons that we don't want to live our life angry. But it's mind-boggling to me, and that's not to say that there aren't demons on the right too. There are people on the right that there was a guy he went to the march in DC this past weekend, and there was actual legit homophobe. I mean, there weren't very many of them, but they were. And what was so nice for me is they were actually drowned out by Trump supporters who were chanting "Trump supports gays." And I was like, in
That's
what
awesome.
universe am I living in that this is the Republican Party?
No, absolutely. And you see it here. I saw it in the Beverly Hills rallies every Saturday as well. There was a massive, group of LGBTs for Trump, Asians for Trump, Latinos for Trump. And, of course, you have that far right Christian Bible Belt, you know, turn to Jesus and away from all of this stuff where you're, gonna perish. But it's good. You have extremists in all sorts of groups. So those people tend to be so few.
Mhm.
Granted, they tend to be the ones that get picked up on imagery a lot and give us, make us look worse than we are or make us look bad. But you're right. It's we are drowning out those voices of the more hardcore conservatives or your more traditional Republicans who in the past were anti-gay rights, anti-gay marriage, anti-this and whatever. Those people are being pushed out of the party, and the party is getting a major reformation, and it's
Mhm.
it's amazing.
Let me ask you this, and I just kind of thought of this question as you were speaking. Which are you, and if you don't want to give me an answer, that's fine, but which are you more offended by? Crazy Christians on the right who want you to accept Jesus and turn your back on your ways, or people on the left who tell you there's only one right way to be gay?
I mean, they're both pretty offensive because I could put you could push those two into the same group, and
That's a very good point.
they're
Yeah.
still spewing hate, no matter how you look at it. So put them in the hate group, they can go be hateful together and or hate each other or whatever.
I think that's a great answer. All right, let's go back to my super chats. Jenny's getting inky with it. Says, check out House of DMAAJ YouTube channel, the right wing drag queens. They're in Cali and do vids and drag because they're concerned about these issues. Um, Matthew Salazar, thank you for that. Charmed 3XS, thank you for the super chat. Michael Shane, thank you for being you and standing tall for your principles. Much love. You're getting a lot of love in the chat right now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Um,
We have to stand up more. And the more, if
yes.
more of us do it, then more people will. It's just like the two Republicans who rescinded um, their election approvals because they were like, no, you know what? Screw you, threatened my family and threatened their children. Like, how do you threaten children? This is just the sick people on that side, and they were like, no, you know what? We're gonna stand up for this. And so I decided when I finished Andrew Breitbart's incredible book, Righteous Indignation, everyone needs to read this book. You'll understand what is happening and how we got here and how the Democrat media complex has taken over everything. You have to read this book. Yeah, that inspired me. The ending of that book said, you know what? I'm going to go public with this. I'm not going to let them harass me privately and people don't know about it. People need to know about it. They would do the same thing to us. Why can't we do it to them? We need to start fighting back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to tell you, about halfway through that book on Audible right now. I chose it based on your recommendation, and so I'm really enjoying it so far. But a clip that I've been watching, like anytime I watched it right before I went to the DC rally and just had it in the back of my head. Was there's this great clip. It's from the trailer for the movie Hating Breitbart, but someone just took a little snippet of it. And if you look up on YouTube, Andrew Breitbart war is going to come right up. But it's just Andrew Breitbart talking about like, you're going to call us Timothy McVeighs and blah, 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 blah. And then there's this epic guitar music in the background. And then he just like looks at the camera. He's like, war. And I'm like, yeah, Andrew
Nice.
Breitbart. Like, I
Yep.
feel like I missed out on the Andrew Breitbart era, but I have to go back and make up for it now.
Me too. And I recently have become friends with one of his good friends, or one of his best friends. And I texted him. I'm like, I wish Andrew was still here because I would be so humbled to fight alongside him right now.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree. Socially distant Andrew says the Dems' call for unity is BS, especially after 4 years of calling Trump supporters everything but children of God. Yeah, I mean, there's this article in the New York Times, and I haven't even read this article yet because I'm going to do a reaction video to it, but I know it's exactly what I think it is. There was an op-ed that came out from a guy today who went on CNN all the time calling Trump supporters idiots, and now all of a sudden he wrote this piece that's basically like, well, I tried to reach out with them and make nice, and they wouldn't listen to me. It's like, I'm sure this was
Yeah.
a completely good faith effort. Yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. After years of calling us racists and bigots and homophobes, we're just gonna be like, "Oh, you want to play nice now? Sorry, not gonna happen."
Exactly. I'm more determined than ever with these people. All right, so I do have one more question from my locals. This is from John SF. So thank you for this, John. He says that I ask this as a gay man who appreciates police protection against potential homophobia and violence. Do you feel your LGBT community bullies you into supporting BLM? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think they just jump on board with any social justice causes without really looking into it. When everything began to unfoil at the end of May, yeah, I had my phone, my iPad, my computer open, like all different things, just watching everything unfold with my jaw dropped in total disbelief that this was happening, and
Mm-hmm.
trying to understand what was happening first before I responded, and gathering all the information, gathering all the details before, just jumping out there, throwing my fist in the air, saying, we need to stop this. Yeah, do we need to stop police brutality? Sure. Is it at the rate that they're telling us it is? No, it's not. So let's look into the details first, and then let's look at the Black Lives Matter organization itself. Where's the money going?
Right.
Follow the money. Not 1 cent has gone to the Black community. Black Lives Matter organization does not care about Black lives one bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but people don't look into this. They just say, "Oh my gosh, injustice. We have to do something about it."
Right. And it makes people feel good to donate that money, right?
Absolutely. I had I won't get into that one, but
Ah,
yeah, no, it's about donating to organizations, and you don't know where your money is going. There was an organization that a bunch of friends of mine started donating to, and I'm like, you don't know where that money is going. I actually did know where the money was going. It was going to another terrorist organization, and I'm like, you guys are like on the wrong side of this. But anyway, that's another story.
I mean, I'll say this, like I've worked in nonprofits. I worked in higher education for a long, long time, which most higher ed is nonprofit. And I worked for other nonprofits as well. Nonprofits are some of the most sketchy organizations in the world because usually they're not usually run by highly competent people because really like nonprofit CEOs don't make that much money. It's not a lucrative position to be in at all. So they
Unless you're in
don't really have
unless you're in the Clinton Foundation or the Biden Cancer Foundation, then
uh,
all of the leaders of the
yeah.
organization make some great money.
the Biden Cancer Foundation that never apparently did anything to help fight cancer, which really actually annoyed me because I was actually in the audience when he launched that organization. And I was so excited. I was like, yeah, Biden's going to do something. And this was years ago, but I was so excited and I was so disappointed to see that that organization has done literally nothing. It's awful, awful. But yeah, beware of nonprofits. So let's take a look at some of your offending tweets, the 79 tweets that were screenshotted. And you thought maybe we could play a little game with the chat. Want to
Yes.
explain the game?
Yeah, let's play name that offense and see if we can figure out what, if it was a racist offense or misogynistic or anti-immigrant, anti-Muslim. Let's see what kind of response we get. And it's funny because I was going through the tweets myself, and I'm like, wait, let me go through the tweets to see what I actually said, because you're rapid firing in social media. Like half the time, I don't know, really what you're
It's
saying, but
Twitter. It's Twitter. Twitter is not
it's
for
Twitter.
adults, people. Twitter is for fun.
Twitter is for, yeah, nonsense. But and I looked through them, and most of the people that I was retweeting, and most of its retweets, are from other Black conservatives or other minority conservatives, which is the irony of this.
Yeah. And so what were some of the offenses that you were accused of in the resignation, Emil? You were accused of misogyny, racism,
Racism, anti
xenophobia.
xenophobia, anti immigration, anti-Muslim. I think that's it. Wait, let me see if I have the list here. Yeah, misogynistic, racist, condoning and advocating violence against protesters. Ooh, I hope we bring up that tweet because that was a fun one. Anti-Muslim, anti-immigrant, and opposition to public policy that furthers equity and supplier diversity initiatives. I don't know if we're going to see a tweet like that.
I have no equity,
I don't even
like
know.
supplier equity. I have no idea what that even
Yeah.
means. All right. So I'll just click around and you can do your commentary and we can talk and I'll keep an eye on the chat to see what they think. But so this one was apparently offensive. Socialism doesn't represent America. Move to Venezuela if you want it so bad. And then you apparently had an offending retweet. So what was the offense with this?
Yeah, probably anti-immigrant, I think.
Why would this be immigrant though? Because you're telling, like, I don't think this would be immigrant. I don't know.
Anti-American citizen who wants to bring socialism to America. I don't know. Defending American freedom is what it is, probably.
Yeah, I don't even know. I truly don't know what the offense would be. I mean, they always threaten. They're always like, if our guy doesn't win, I'm going to move to Canada. Like, how is that any different?
Yeah, and none of them have moved to Canada yet. I would love to help them back.
They can go in the cold.
They sh-
Okay,
they should, yeah.
here's a retweet of Christian Walker. And he's Herschel Walker's son, right? That's
Yes,
how he's involved in a lot of this stuff. So he
absolutely.
says,
Well, I mean, he's a patriot in his own right. I mean, he's
yes,
gained
he
an
is.
audience, in his own right as an American, a Black American patriot, and he's amazing.
So this one, you just retweeted this, and he said, I'm technically a minority, but I don't have a minority mindset. I don't need special privileges and diversity quotas to get where I'm going. This, to me, is a tweet about personal empowerment. So here we
Absolutely.
have a Black man, LGBT, like double minority. I'm sure there's probably, he has other identities as well that we can talk about. What was the offense here? And I'll ask the people in the chat, guys, if you think you know the offense for any of these tweets, please feel free to like just chat it in because I really like what do you think they found wrong with this one?
No clue on this one. This is seriously, one of those, you said it. It's his personal achievements, personal freedoms I don't want special privileges for me to get ahead.
Mm-hmm.
We all should have to work as hard as the next person. We don't
You
need
know what?
special privileges.
Well, right, and it's so much more fulfilling and frankly, it's so much more empowering to me to know that I can do whatever I want to do. I don't need anyone to give me permission. Like no one will hold me back if I'm the only one holding myself back really. And it's funny because, I wrote a book about mindfulness strategies at work like 3 years ago and that was basically the crux of my book is like you have the ability to create whatever experience you want. I had no idea at the time that I was writing a book from a very conservative mindset of like self-empowerment and do for yourself and don't worry about what other people think. It's always so ironic to me that turned out to be the case.
Absolutely, I want to read that book.
I'll send you a copy of it. So we've got in the chat, people are saying that this was obviously a racist tweet. They don't like blacks leaving the plantation. Well, I suppose. Let's keep going. So this one was about, oh, this is obviously going to be both racist and misogynist.
Oh, sure,
Failed
yeah.
failed Mayor Lori Lightfoot is a perfect example of why elected officials should be chosen based on more than just their race and gender.
Yeah, that's anti women, or probably, or anti racist. Yeah,
Yep.
for sure.
Then we have Lady MAGA. So we
Oh,
have
this is
a
great.
like a MAGA drag queen. You're retweeting a drag queen, and she's like one of the most fabulous people on the planet. You're Palestinian and you hate American patriots. Tell me, sweetheart, how are the gays doing in Palestine?
Yeah, I mean, we
How-
have so many people in America that are supporting Palestine, and what they do to their minorities and what they do to their LGBT community is atrocious.
Mhm.
And we should be standing up for that
Yeah,
100%.
it's so ridiculous. So what was the offense here? This has got to be an anti-Muslim tweet, I would think.
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
What's the chatters say? I can't read the
What
chat.
what what do you guys think? What do you think is the offense of this one? Let's see. Let's see. Steven says the offense is that she wore red.
Very offensive.
A
Or
green friend says, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I found out recently that the American flag is very offensive to certain people. I was telling you one of the instances with our executive director. It was after the executive director of the LAGLCC. It was after the Republican National Convention, and she was like, "Yeah, they I was so offended by the use of their American flags because they were just weaponizing them. They were everywhere." And she went on to say that, as a black woman, every time she sees an American flag on a house, she immediately thinks white supremacist. And I'm like, and I responded. This was in the beginning, before a board meeting. We were on a Zoom call, and I responded. I'm like, well, that's really sad. I'm sorry that you feel that way. The black people that I know definitely don't feel that way. And her response is, well, I know more black people than you do, so
Wow.
I would know. So
That makes all the difference because
yeah,
because
absolutely.
black people, just like gay people, aren't allowed to have differences of opinion on different topics. Um, Green Friends actually has one of my favorite responses to what the offense was. They said it's obviously anti-fashion because she has great shoes.
Anti-fashion. I've never been called that before.
I might be called that. Okay.
Oh, this
Oh,
is one of
here's
my favorites.
okay. Walk us through this one.
All
Probably a
right,
little
so
bit
this
bigger.
is Elon Omar, who is an immigrant, um, congresswoman. An achievement that I feel like most of the world would have on their achievement list, to become an American citizen and then be able to run for Congress. Like, that is an unbelievable feat, and I applaud her and congratulate for doing that. But then she's here saying, how she's oppressed,
Right.
um, being in our country as a congresswoman, and I'm like, you're not oppressed. You're an immigrant who's a congresswoman, so STFU. And then, of course, I commented, unless she's talking about her Islamic oppression, which we know is probably the more obvious offense here. But
Mhm.
we don't want that in America. She can keep it in Somalia, wherever
Yeah.
she's from.
Well, and I want to say too that like I think I think how I perceive Islam is like, listen, I like people I believe weird stuff that people don't believe, and like I think that everyone should be able to practice whatever faith they want to as long as they're not hurting other people. If this is the faith that she wants to practice, that's totally fine. But I mean, I think we need to acknowledge that there are fundamentally different values in some of these faiths, and we all have to be the own best. And I'm not going to say that they're better or worse because I don't believe in better or worse, really. I don't think that's my place. But I think we all have to acknowledge that, we by actively participating in some of these religions, we're aligning ourselves with those values. And that's something that I think is worthy of consideration when you're thinking about someone's character and what they want in the world and what type of world that they want to create. And is that in line with the world that you want?
Absolutely. And this isn't against the Muslim religion at all, because I believe
No.
the Muslim religion is beautiful. But there's a sect of the Muslim religion, just like they talk about a sect of Christian, right-wing Christian, whatever, of the Muslim religion that are Islamists and extremists and oppressive to their women, especially oppressive to the LGBT community, throwing them off buildings and such, or stoning them to death. Even children. I mean, they stoned minors for being gay, teenagers, and it's that's the kind of oppression that we are against. If you want to practice your Muslim faith, that's great. If you want to practice your Muslim faith in America, that's great. But don't bring the Islamic extremism here and try to impose it upon all of us.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I say this as like I'm not a Christian. I actually don't like subscribe to any like traditional religious view. And oftentimes I feel like people people really come down on me for that. But that's my choice. And you just like you can't force other people to practice what you want. I think the world would be an not so great of a place if we all had to believe and practice exactly the same thing. All right, let's
Absolutely.
see. So this is a retweet, and then you had a comment. The original tweet says, "Breaking: Antifa man in Times Square, New York City, sucker punches Trump supporter in the head, faces instant justice." And then you retweeted and said, "Oh, how I love watching these cowards get beat down. Their parents should have get the beat down their parents should have given them a long time ago." So this is what, an Antifa offense?
Yeah, it's anti-Antifa, anti-violence is what it is. But I think they labeled it, the chamber labeled it as violence against protesters. Um, but
Violence
when
against
protesters are,
protesters.
yeah, when you have violent protesters hitting people, I want them to get beat down afterwards. Like, I want them to get their just dessert, and they deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
So instant gratification. I love watching those anti-Antifa videos of them. Just there's this one guy, I think a viral one, and he goes up to this massive truck, and he's like banging on the window and banging on the window, and it's this like skinny little soy boy. And the truck driver, the driver of the truck, comes around and just like pummels him to the ground. And I'm like, well, you play stupid games, win stupid prizes, right? If you're gonna do that, you got to expect retaliation.
Exactly. Quila Bright says in the chat that you were promoting spanking, and that's very bad with that
Ooh.
retweet. Could be good or bad depending on. But like, so I wanted to pull back because this brought up a larger question for me because I I'm not exactly sure, if I'm honest, what a chamber of commerce does. I'm not. I have not had any interaction with my local chamber of commerce. I'm sure they're very helpful, very nice people. But my perception of a chamber of commerce, and specifically, you were the president of the board of the LGBTQ Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce. My perception of it is that it is an organization that is designed to like facilitate and help like LGBTQ businesses in the
Help
area.
them
Am
grow,
I right
help
about that?
businesses
Yeah.
grow, advocate for those businesses, with the city, with the state. That is their job, to help businesses grow. It's not their job to inject their ideology into their membership. There's someone actually in the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber, which we're which the LA Chamber is connected to. Someone at the executive level there has crazy Trump derangement syndrome, and it's just, there's no place for it in these organizations. These organizations are formed to help businesses grow. And
Mhm.
so now, my business is supported by my Chamber of Commerce, just because my my beliefs go against their ideology. And if that's
Mhm.
how it is, then so be it. So
Well, but let me ask you this, and I think that, I agree with everything you just said. Like, I generally think that organizations should keep their eye on their mission rather than trying to, unless your organization is specifically about social justice and has those goals, like you shouldn't be getting involved in this because you're going to make 50% of your audience mad if you're getting involved in politics and advocating for stuff. But I think this is even more timely conversation because I went out to LA, I think I was there for the Walkaway rally in July, I think that was June, something like
Yeah.
July or August. Whole bunch of stuff boarded up, you know? And so are LGBTQ businesses thriving in Los Angeles right now? What is the environment like?
I don't think any business is thriving in Los Angeles right now. We have a dictator governor who is locking everything down while he goes to, hobnob at his elitist parties, telling all of us, we can open our businesses. And since I'm in the travel industry, even if California was wide open and there were no restrictions whatsoever, on a global level, we have this issue involved. So I have to pivot I have to I have a couple side hustles that I'm doing right now because my travel business is pretty much almost non-existent. If there's anyone out there that needs travel, let me know. But I'm getting into solar, which is thriving here in Los Angeles. I have a cannabis tech company that I'm consulting for, and a few hospitality projects happening in Miami, which I'm going to be going down for the winter for. So back to your question specifically about LGBT businesses, I don't think it can be quantified on that level. The chamber is more for, I think, advocacy. It was formed, back in the 70s and 80s to because being LGBT was illegal at some point. So there was a real need for LGBT owners and businesses to really come together and protect each other and help them grow. It was more of a fight against, at that time, there was, against oppression from the city and from the police officers raiding, LGBT clubs and businesses. But I don't think I don't think that's not an issue anymore. I think
Mhm.
it's a greater commerce issue, and I think we need to open up as a state and let the small businesses have a crack at, what Target and Costco and all of the big chains have been able to stay open and bring in revenue and bring in business this entire time when our businesses are really sitting on the
Well,
side and suffering.
I mean, I bring it up because if you want to do political advocacy in this time period, it seems to me that one of the most effective forms of political advocacy that would actually be appropriate for an LGBTQ chamber of commerce is to say we need to end the lockdowns so people can actually work. And lobbying on that behalf, like that's what Brandon was doing with Walkaway. Walkaway has never been like just like a pro-Trump organization. It was rallying to bring back America, to shut down, to stop the lockdowns, to allow people to go back to work. And it seems to me that that would have been a perfect subject for a chamber of commerce to lobby for, is to let our businesses actually be businesses.
Absolutely, and they're silent on that. They just go along with whatever the state does, whatever the governor does, whatever the city's telling us to do. No questions asked. Well, obviously, if the government's telling us that we need to be closed down, COVID doesn't affect you if your business is closed, obviously, or they just go along with it. There's no fighting to keep businesses open. So you have a point.
Yeah. Well, I have another super chat in that I think is actually a really interesting question. Definitely want to get your perspective. Have Tome says that they are an LGBTQ plus in Portland, Oregon, which I can't believe is the easiest place to live right now. And it says, I actually feel more scared being who I am. What advice do you have to help someone with this anxiety, most especially because of BLM and Antifa? What advice would you give them, Michael?
I would say the same thing I did earlier on in this year when when I was growing more passionate about being a patriot and loving America and the freedoms that we stand for. Start to reach out to Blog Cabin Republicans. If you don't have a chapter in your city, reach out to the national. Reach out to me. I'll connect you with people. We have a few friends in Portland. Andy No is there. who's a dear friend of mine now. And so, there are people out there. In Portland, I can imagine it's definitely scary. But there are people out there. There are ways to meet like-minded people, and I think you should find the organizations that you align with and you want to meet people through, and they welcome you with open arms. I mean, I can't believe how many instant friends I gained from reaching out to the Log Cabin Republicans, and we love each other. We have so much love for each other in this country. It was an instant gain of like dozens of friends.
Well, and I went to one of your events too in Nashville, one of the Get Outspoken events, and everyone is just like, it's the most fun group to be a part of. Like, I'm a big fan. I will come hang out with you guys any single time, and it seemed like it's such an open and welcoming community that just like that is a genuinely inclusive community.
Absolutely, conservative gays have more fun.
They really do. All right, let me see. Michael, was there anything else that you wanted to make sure that we touched on in this chat that we haven't talked about already?
We covered a good amount. I think this was great. Thanks
Mhm.
for having me on and giving me a platform to, speak about
Yeah.
this. We all have to speak up at some point. Uh, some of us, unfortunately, cannot. So I am doing it for those who cannot, speak up in fear of losing their jobs, losing friends, and whatnot. I'm not afraid anymore, and I welcome it. So if you want to reach out to me and chat, that'd be awesome. I'd welcome that too. But if there's anybody else out there that feels like you need to speak up, don't be afraid. We're here to support you. We have an overwhelming reception now of people that are not afraid anymore. And if we continue to fight back against their bigotry and their hypocrisy from the left, then we will win. We will win this, fight. And this is, something that we all need to be involved in.
Yeah, and I want to echo that. I think it's really, really important. People who have the ability to speak up, now is the time that you need to speak up, regardless of what happens with the election. And we still don't know yet either way. But everyone who can speak up should speak up. And the reason that it's so, so, so important is that when you start speaking up, you are going to find that you inspire other people. Every single one of you can inspire someone else to speak up. When you set that example, when you show them what it's like not to be afraid. I mean, listen, like, I'll be honest, like, doing this stuff, it's like I never thought I would do this, but the reason that I do it is because I hear from people all the time that I inspired them, and that's a humbling experience, and I want everyone to have that experience. Everyone to have someone else come up to you and say, "You inspired me to speak up and to stand my ground." It's really, really thrilling.
And actually, so Andrew Breitbart's book may have given me the courage to talk about this one situation publicly, but the person that gave me the encouragement to stand up and start showing up was actually you. And so thank you for that. You
It
gave
made me
me the
cry.
courage to I'm getting teary too, to show up and get outspoken. And then so thank you for that.
And doesn't it feel so much better when you speak up? It really does.
Absolutely.
Do you have
Absolutely. And
any
I feel like
regrets?
I don't have any regrets ever in life. I really don't. Maybe I do
Mhm.
have a regret not joining the army, but that's just the thing. I don't know why, but um,
I would have joined the Navy. If I had to join the military, I would have joined the Navy.
it was Air Force and Marines for me, but I still think it's cool. I'm too old now.
Well, you can't be a Marine in uniform. All Marines are hot in uniform.
Yeah.
Um, Have Tome says, "What is Michael's Twitter?" That is a good question. It's actually his screen name, the Michael Shane. Um, and Michael, is there any other way that you would like people to get in touch with you if they want to reach out?
The Michael Shane on all of my social media, from Instagram to Facebook to Twitter to Parlor, everything is at the Michael Shane. So please reach out. I'd love to talk to more of you. I've had a great time doing this, and I'm so glad I did.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on my channel today. I'm sure I'll have you back at some point in the future. I'm going to be kicking up into doing more live streams again now that I kind of am home more, but also Brandon still has me traveling at the last minute to crazy places. So guys, just a few quick announcements. Number one, if this is your first time on my channel, I hope you'll consider subscribing. I am going to be doing a lot more live streams coming up, but I also do daily content around news, politics, culture, really whatever I feel like ranting about on any given day. So you'll always find something new when you come back. So please subscribe, hit that like button if you enjoyed this chat and you want to give Michael a thumbs up for being brave and speaking out and standing up for what he believes in. Really appreciate it. The other thing I want to say is I am actually tomorrow morning going to be flying down to Atlanta. So if there are any of you in the greater Atlanta area, you're going to want to come out on Saturday morning, because here's what we're doing. You ready for this, Michael? This is going to be fun. We are doing a fake news rally at CNN headquarters in
Yes.
Atlanta on Saturday morning at 10 a.m., bright and early. It's going to be the typical walkaway crew: Brandon, me, Mikey, Shamika. We also have CJ Pearson's coming. Vern Jones is coming. YG Nightstorm is coming. Chandler Crump is going to be there. So we're doing a fake news rally at 10 a.m. And then I suspect we're all going to be caravanning over to the Capitol to participate in the Stop the Steal rally right afterwards. So if you are in the greater Atlanta area, I hope to see you there. Come up, introduce yourself, say hi, just like Michael did at the Beverly Hills rally, because I'd like to meet so many of you. All right, guys, that's all we've got for today, and I will see you all soon. Have a great rest of your day.